Hey guys, I was thinking over the passage we talked about on Sunday morning, Philippians 4 verses 2 and 3, and how Paul calls Euodia and Syntyche out. And he says, you've got to end this feud. You've got to bring peace to this contentious situation, and even calls in a third party to kind of help moderate the situation, to bring peace. And he says, listen, this is not how we are supposed to be in the church. This is not how we're supposed to be known. Remember, Jesus says in John 13, this is how people will know you're my people, is by how you love each other, by how you are dissimilar from the rest of the world's relationships, which are just absolutely polluted with the effects of sin. And remember, we said that our relationships are so rocky, they're so uneven, they're so peaks and valleys at times because that's how we are. We are people affected by sin. Remember in Genesis 3 when sin has become evident, when Adam and Eve have both fallen in disobedience from God, and God looks at the serpent, he says, I curse you, you're going to eat the dust. And he looks at man and says, now the ground is going to be only bear fruit for you in toil and work and strife. He looks at Eve and says, man, now because of your sin, the childbirth is going to be very difficult. And then he looks at both Adam and Eve and he says this, he says, now your desire will be for your husband and he will lord it over you. Now that's a very debated phrase, but what we know it means is this: now sin has impacted personal relationships. Now where there used to be perfect tranquility and harmony, now because of your rejection of me, now because of your sinfulness, now your personal relationships will have discord and disharmony. And I just wanted to lay before you, remember what Paul's emphasis is in Philippians. We are not people of this fallen, broken, sinful world. We are people, our citizenship belongs in heaven. And because we belong to heaven, we should act like where we belong. You know, you meet a foreigner, you meet a visitor from a foreign nation, and they don't act like us, they don't sound like us, they don't talk like us, they sound and act like where they came from. They have the convictions from where they came from. And that's what Paul is saying. He's saying, let your convictions and your actions be based on where you belong, on where you come from. Don't let your relationships be infested with the fallenness of this world and the sinfulness of this world and of that sinful nature that resides in each and every one of us. But instead, he says, live off the Spirit of Christ. Instead, he says, act as a citizen of heaven, as someone who's been redeemed and forgiven and washed from their sin. And I just lay before you again, is there any relationship? Is there any struggle? Is there any contention? Is there any division between you and specifically another believer? Whether it's a believer that lives in your neighborhood, or a believer in your office, or a believer at your church, or a believer in your home. Listen, let's realize how important being peacemakers is to God. Let's remember Jesus' words that they will know you, they will know that you are mine, they will know you belong to me, by how you love each other, by the peacefulness that's brought into your relationship. God says that because of sin, the relationships will have disharmony. But now in Christ, we have not only the ability and the power, but the command of God to have peace within our relationships. Have a great day, guys.